So the CT70 is officially street legal. I found a way to get the bike registered even though I didn't have a title for it. And that's an issue that I imagine a lot of CT70 owners have. So I actually live in the state of Florida, but I found that in the state of Vermont, they don't issue titles for bikes that are under a certain cc. Actually, through the mail, you don't have to be a resident of the state of Vermont. We'll actually allow you to send in an application form. The registration was only about $60 for this antique plate, and in about 3 weeks, this showed up in the mail. So here's the form on the Vermont DMV website that you need to fill out to register your vehicle for registration license plate in the state of Vermont. Again, in this case, I specifically chose to do it through Vermont because they allow you to register your vehicle without a title. This also doesn't work for all vehicles. Vermont only titles vehicles that are 15 years old or newer, or if it's a motorcycle that's 300 cc's or less. In this case, the CT70 meets both of those criteria. So this was a good option for me, and I was able to get my license plate in about 3 weeks. So I just wanted to briefly go over what you need to fill out in this form, or at least what I filled out to make it work. Step 1 is the vehicle owned or leased. I own it. This is your email, your name, I don't have an EIN number because I'm not a business, but if you do, I'd imagine you'd fill that out. Your phone number. For the Vermont license number here, unless you have a Vermont license number, I left it blank, and they actually assigned me one, and it has a number that they put in that says create, so I imagine I now actually have a Vermont license number. The address where you get your mail. And then where you actually live, which in my case was the same as the address where I get my mail. Your gender and your birthday. I didn't have a co-owner or lessor on the bike, so I just put not applicable here. So in this next section, I have no lien holder, so I put not applicable. Here is in 3B, the person that I purchased the bike from. You put that person's name here and their address. The date you purchased it. And unless you purchased from a dealer, there isn't a dealer number to enter there. I actually just left it not applicable. If you actually have this form when you buy the bike, you can have the individual you purchase it from just sign here, and that suffices instead of a bill of sale. Since I didn't know about this process when I bought the bike, I had just an actual bill of sale where it says their name, the price that I bought the bike for, and the date, their signature, and that seemed to suffice. So in this section, I just said, see attached bill of sale, and I just used an acronym here, and that seemed to work. In section 4, I just noted that it was a new registration. The plate is something that they'll put in once they assign it to you. I have a motorcycle. In my case, I wanted to get the antique plate because I thought it looked cool. In reading through the documentation, apparently the antique plate has some limitations in the state of Vermont. You can use it in parades and special events, but you can only drive it on the public highway. I think it was once or twice a week. In my case, I'm not planning on driving it more than once or twice a week on the public roads, and even if I did, I don't think Florida law enforcement would know about the intricacies of the antique plate from Florida. Wasn't too concerned. It was a little less expensive and I thought it looked cooler, so I went with the antique plate. Here, the number it's asking for, if you scroll down, it shows the different types of registration plates you can get, and antique was this 03AN, so that's the information that I entered here. Then all of this is just the information about your bike. In my case, it was the CT70, 1976. It's a motorcycle, it's red. Can't remember the exact mileage, but something like that. Select miles. Here is the VIN. It has a mighty 1-cylinder. It's obviously used. Uses gasoline. This section is only for trucks. So in this section, you enter the purchase price, and you probably didn't have a trade. I just put not applicable here, or I put 0 actually. Then it asks for the NADA value. Again, reading through the documentation, the net taxable number that goes down here is whichever number is higher, either the purchase price or the NADA value. So you can't say that you bought the bike for $100 and then only pay taxes on $100. you need to also balance it against the NADA guide, and whichever one is higher is what gets taxed. So if you go to the NADA guide's website, you can actually just select your particular bike, and they've got things that are super old, like the CT70, Trail 70, into your zip code. And I used the good value here, which was $625. So the NADA value is actually grayed out for some reason. So I had to wait till I printed it out, and I wrote in 625, and then 0 for adjustments, and then wrote net taxable. I just wrote 625. And actually on the form that I got back, they wrote by hand OK here next to my NADA value. So I have a feeling they actually looked it up to make sure that the NADA value was within the realm of what it possibly could have been, and that I wasn't trying to grossly undervalue the bike. So again, since they wrote OK next to mine, I'd make sure that you're using a NADA value that actually makes sense. For the purchaser of old vehicle, I put not applicable because I'm not sure what that was even asking. And then in the registration, there's another form, and I'll link all of these documents down in the description, but that do the calculations for the registration. In my case, the registration for the antique plates were only $23. The taxes were $37.50, and then you do the math down here for $60.50. In the form that I got back on the side here in the gray, they just checked my math, and it came up to $60.50. Down here, you sign it and date it, and I wrote not applicable for the signature slash for the co-owner or lessor. I dated it 6/23. I mailed it the next day. I got a stamp at the top that said 6/27, so they actioned it pretty quickly. And then on the top, finally I got a stamp that says July 1st that it was validated. Then I received the plates on 7/18 and the registration separately on 7/19. So just over 3 weeks from start to finish to get the license plate and have the bike street legal. So a pretty cool process. And again, I've heard, and I'll find out here soon and definitely follow up with a video. Now in the state of Florida, if I wanted to get a Florida title for the bike, I can take in my Vermont registration, which states, in fact, that they don't title bikes that in this case are older than 15 years or less than 300 cc. And because of that, there is no title for Florida to request, and they will issue me one, and then I can use that title to get Florida state registration and license plate. So we'll see where I get with that, but for now I'm really just happy to be able to ride it around legally without worrying about getting pulled over. And I plan to do a lot of vlogs and other things riding around on this bike, because just in the short rides that I had today, it got more attention than the 2019 Monkey, which already gets a lot of attention. I imagine that we'll probably get a lot of waves and smiles as we're cruising around town. So anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and appreciate you guys. Thanks.